Hi everyone, we're a little early this time because Kickstarter, yay!
Yeah.
The Kickstarter game actually came out good for once.
Oh, it's so nice to finally have this. The Kickstarter started, it's hard to believe, 4 years ago. Like,
But
geez.
really?
Yeah,
You're
really.
close to
2012.
2000. Yeah.
2012. It was 2 years after the Kickstarter started that we got Pirate's Curse, and 2 years after that we got this game. So yeah, it's so nice to finally have this one. I was really excited.
At the time of this recording, backers are just getting their codes in their emails.
Yeah.
For Steam, PS4, and Xbox One. Wii U owners unfortunately have to wait a little bit, and not too surprised about that.
I wouldn't be surprised if they got the codes like on the 11th or 12th, which is right when the backers are supposed to get their copies.
Yeah.
So yes.
But quick bonus for those that had early access, as you can tell by the bottom right of the screen there. Well, Ryan's the one recording this.
Yep.
As early access people got access to the full game first by like a whole week.
Yeah.
But awesome. Woo.
Yeah. I'm not like, I mean, how much did you guys pledge? I mean, I'm $25. I got the game and the soundtrack, but I didn't do enough for like early access because I figured I could wait. Except I couldn't, so I borrowed Ryan's login. I hacked to the system.
I like how they just have a bat fly stupidly into the flame to let you know that you can do that, since you can't use your hair.
It's an odd detail because it's like the only time in the game this happens, where an enemy can run into, say, a torch and kill itself.
That's why they have it inevitably happen to that one bat at the start, to let you know that's how you're supposed to deal with the bats in that room, since you can't attack for this segment.
Yeah.
So, they just had one bat be a dumbass to let the player know how they're supposed to overcome that.
Or you can
challenge.
just do what I did and hold right the entire time and they won't touch you, so.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah, but you see the bats there. If you're going in blind, there's a good chance you're going to stop, and if you do that, you've given up your chance to just run through. So you have to be able to deal with it.
Yeah. But to go back to what I was saying, like Ted and Ryan, like how much did you guys?
Too much. I pledged a lot, more money than I'm comfortable saying on the video. Enough to get a lot of sweet swag. So maybe I'll do a video.
Did you get the $10,000 tier?
No, I didn't pledge
a copy of Shantae in your bedroom.
I didn't buy the most expensive physical copy of Shantae. No, but I got plenty of sweet swag. So maybe I'll do a video showing it off at some point. But yeah,
or like the backer bonuses later.
Yeah. So that all looks cool. I got a lot of cool physical stuff. I
got a few things. I think this was the Kickstarter I spent the most on, just because I knew it was way forward and I knew it was an established franchise, so I knew what I was going to get into. Really.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I didn't contribute anything because during the time this Kickstarter was running, I didn't have the money to spare for it, which is unfortunate because I really wanted to contribute. But
so you're the reason we don't have Sky, Bolo, and Rowdy Tops as playable.
No, they are playable. They got added at like the very last minute, like right before they had to do cutoffs for PayPal donations. We got Sky, Rowdy Tops, and Bolo, which is awesome.
Hooray!
But I'm guessing we probably won't get them for a while, though.
Yeah, it seems like it seems like first up they're doing Risky Boots.
Probably.
Yeah.
So,
do you think they could have been a little more out there with that? Because I mean, I think a lot of people were under the assumption that once the initial Kickstarter ended, that's it. They weren't taking any more contributions, but in reality, they were still taking PayPal funds.
No, that's common. A lot of Kickstarters do that. Like they'll say,
Ukulele did that.
Yeah, but it's usually only for Kickstarters that have already passed their initial funding, because the way that the platform works, if you don't get funded, nobody's money gets taken. So if it's a lot of Kickstarters will be like, okay, our funding's over, but we can still meet some of those extra stretch goals because we've got a PayPal tip jar on our website or something. A lot of Kickstarter campaigns do that. It's not uncommon.
One of the things that I did manage to contribute to, just enough to get an early access copy, but it was Shroud of the Avatar, Forsaken Virtue, and that is still accepting some type of crowdfunding on its website. It's just it's allowed to go at its own pace now. There's no big rush, and they don't really push it.
Well, no matter the case, WayFor certainly, I don't know, folks, we made fun of Lewis a lot of times for bringing up Devil May Cry and God of War. I now offer thee a mighty number 9 counter,
or Shovel Knight, because we've got good Kickstarter comparisons to make and bad Kickstarter comparisons to make.
Yeah, I would say one thing I would to immediately start this counter off. WayForward's communication was significantly better.
Yes.
Than concepts in terms of just how the game was coming along and. It's
what
funny,
they were working on and what the fans were doing with it.
I was lurking at message boards and people were saying that they were updating too much. Like the people that backed the game had their emails flooded with like Kickstarter updates. I was like, guys, it's like you invested in the game. What the fuck do you think was gonna happen?
Yeah, they had almost 100 by the time the game released, and I mean, granted, it did slow down after the initial push to get the game funded, and that happens with a lot of games. A lot of Kickstarter things will kind of go dark for a little bit to actually, get some work done on the real game. So yeah, I'm guessing that we'll actually start talking about the gameplay when we actually get to some real gameplay and not just
cutscenes.
Cutscenes.
Although what we're looking at now, right off the bat, I have to say that I really like the game's graphics and visual style, and I wasn't sure I would for 2 reasons. The first reason being the obvious sprites atop a 3D graphics look, which I wasn't very fond of in DuckTales Remastered, to be honest. The environments tended to look too
well, this
flat
is clearly using the
bland.
same engine as DuckTales Remastered.
It's using the same engine, but it's much more visually appealing. The fidelity is much higher. They did very good on that. In fact, it almost hits that Rayman Legends aspect of I look at this and I almost can't tell that the background is 3D at all at times.
Yeah.
So
it's I think the difference between this and DuckTales is that unfortunately for DuckTales they were stuck with a very 8-bit blueprint for the game that they had to make, whereas this they can make the backgrounds look like whatever they want. It can look more expansive, it can have more depth of field. Yeah, the game is absolutely gorgeous. Probably one of the best looking indie titles I have ever seen. Personally.
One thing I don't like is what we're seeing right now, the constant interruptions for save points.
I'm glad that it's quick, though, at the very least.
It's quick, yeah, but if you've got this guy that you can talk to, put him at the beginning of a section and let me talk to him. Don't
or just auto
ask me.
Because I can't think of any reason why you would never save.
Well, some people do want to save scum. So that's, giving them the option to do that is kind, to use a diplomatic term. I like this scene, by the way.
I'm wondering, considering a lot of the puns in this one, I'm not sure how they're going to translate some of them. There's one in particular that I'll bring up later, but the graphics in this game, I will say, just are generally really, really nice. Like,
love
look
the
at
song.
I was surprised that they actually used this as the intro song. They do play Burning Town after this room, but Dancing Through the Danger is fantastic. It's probably the best song in the game. So
yeah, I was surprised it actually played during a level.
Well, I mean, you got a song, you go out of your way to make this vocal track. You don't want to use it for
promotional
material.
You say that, but games do that all the time, and they just play it during the credits.
Yeah, but they're on a budget. So, reuse that song for a level if they had to. I don't mind it. It's a good song.
Oh, yeah. I guess they're not Square Enix. They can't afford to have a vocal track made and then have a completely other vocal track made for the English-speaking audience. Because
that's the Final Fantasy VII money.
Because apparently they think Final Fantasy fans won't like J-pop.
But they still released 10-2, so...
Hey, what can I do for you?
Oh, man. Yeah, so if you've ever played a Shantae game before, this scene probably looks very familiar because almost
every Shantae game starts with this.
Yeah, but the interesting thing about Half-Genie Hero and what makes it probably the biggest departure from the rest of the series is that it does not play like a traditional Metroidvania like the other 3 games.
It's more platformer than it is Metroidvania.
It's stage-based, essentially.
Yeah, it's stage-based. And you know what? I think that was probably the biggest shock for me. Like, about a quarter of the game in, and I remember asking aloud, it's like, where are the dungeons? Like,
I have 2 thoughts on that. Just based on my limited experience, I'm the only one of us 4 viewers who hasn't finished this because my computer unfortunately caused this game to crash a lot, so I sort of gave up partway through. It's because it's the early backers build. It's not probably not going to be that way when the game finally comes out.
Hopefully.
The thing about it, though, is that because the game is stage-based, I'm finding that I have a lot more fun with the actual platforming than I did in the previous games, which tended to go back and forth between being interesting and being standard Symphony of the Night. Well, we'll have you jump across things because it's on our contract, but we're not going to put too much work into that.
I would say Half-Genie Hero is still pretty basic as a platform.
At times, yeah, but it's more focused in terms of stage design.
It's very kinetic, I think, is the big thing. You're moving around a lot, and you're transforming a lot, too. Like, once we get transformations, we're obviously just Shantae.
Oh, yeah, well, the simplified dancing controls are a welcome change from previous games. And, kind of make you feel the loss of the pirate abilities a little less.
It's more or less the same system they used for Risky's Revenge, just a bit faster.
It's faster. It allows for more stuff, too, because you only have 3 transformations in Risky.
I got a feeling Risky's Revenge is going to be brought up a lot in this commentary.
Yeah.
It's the closest comparison, all
for
things
different
considered.
Reasons. Yeah, I like to dub Half-Genie Hero as Risky's Revenge 2.0. For good and ill.
Risky's Revengeance.
Clarify. Risky's Revengeance. Pirate's Curse.
I actually, I beat the game, and I was thinking, I like this, but maybe I think Pirate's Curse is a little bit better. And then I went back and I actually tried to play Pirate's Curse, and honestly, I'm torn as to which one I actually like better. Because when I first beat Half-Genie Hero,
they're not quite the same game, so it's kind of hard to say.
They're very different, which makes comparison interesting to me, though.
All right, at this time, I have played and beaten this game twice.
Same here.
Played the backer build thanks to Ryan, and I downloaded the PS4, my version on the PS4.
My code still isn't in yet. Curse you.
Okay. Well,
stupid Wii U.
I played it on
I got PS4.
And I will say, I still think Pirate's Curse is a better game.
Have you gone back to Pirate's Curse?
I think,
since?
though,
Yes.
regardless of that, I think the takeaway from this is that this is... there may be a preference, and there may be some areas in which both games do better than the other. But there's no real inferiority between any of them, with the exception of Risky's Revenge, for obvious reasons.
Yeah, well, if we're comparing, honestly, I know this is kind of a flawed comparison, but I think that with Half-Genie Hero and Pirate's Curse, we're going to have an SA1 versus SA2 situation, where some people just like one better just because that's what they like.
Yeah, except, these games are quite a lot more polished in both cases than those two games.
That's why it's not a perfect comparison. Yeah. But the base of you like one or you like the other, there's not always a huge reason as to why you like one more than the other. I think we're going to see a lot of that when it comes to these two Shantaes.
My thing is I'm sorry to interrupt you, Lewis, but to me, one of the reasons why I would call it Risky's Revenge 2.0, and I'm not sure whether you guys felt the same in some regards, is that this game doesn't feel finished. This game is I feel this game is fuller than Risky's Revenge. But
I think gameplay-wise it's finished. I just think story-wise it's kind of...
Story and content-wise. I would say story and content-wise, it's not finished.
I don't know. It felt pretty satisfying to play overall. It's about as long as Pirate's Curse is. So, and it's retailing for the same... Yeah, it is. It's about my first
playthrough was 6 hours.
Yeah.
And my second playthrough after that was about 2.5.
Wait, hold on. My first playthrough of Pirate's Curse was about 6 hours. So and my first playthrough of Half-Genie Hero was about 6 hours.
That's going to be a bit more variable because of Pirate's Curse being more Metroidvania than this game.
But they're retailing for the same price too, so I feel like you're getting about the same amount of there's no promise that this is supposed to be more content than Pirate's Curse is supposed to be. It's this.
Well, it's supposed to. We got additional modes coming later down the road, which I'm assuming, just like Shovel Knight, is free DLC.
Yeah, it's free DLC. So it's. I wouldn't say that there's I wouldn't say that there's less here. It's just it's structured weirdly. Is
the base game to me? And I don't mean this. I don't mean to say Half-Genie Hero is a bad game when I say that. But to me, the base game feels lesser than Pirate's Curse.
I wanted to ask it while it was still on screen, but that boss we just fought seemed to start a trend that I noticed was continued with the second boss, where bosses can focus a lot more on jumping around and climbing up things to get at weak points.
Yeah, they want the bosses
is that
to
a continuous thing?
They want the bosses to feel very dynamic. They're all a lot bigger for the most part in this one. Like they've got a lot of moving parts. It's much like one thing about Pirate's Curse is that for the most part you can attack the bosses very continuously. For most of the bosses, there are some exceptions, like the tank and the ice one. You really can only attack that when the game feels like it wants to let you attack that. But in this one, it's much more of a kind of like you exploit the bad guy's weakness, you attack them a bunch, and then, lather, rinse, repeat. Kind of more 3D platformer design boss mentality than 2D, I suppose, is a way to put it.
Except it's kind of a hybrid of the two mentalities, to be honest, because a lot of the time in these two bosses, I'm noticing that you can get in extra hits during your window to attack if you're skillful and quick about it, but you can't attack totally continuously like you would in a lot of 2D bosses. So it depends on the situation,